Year 1993, a ship was found adrift in the North Sea. In some compartments on the ship, there is a bloodbath, also some signs of burning, and no signs of the crew. Except there was one survivor, but he decided not to tell the whole story up to nowadays. So here it is, the mystery of the cargo ship named Bärbel. Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. It's year 2024 and no, it's not a mistake that I still have my Christmas tree. It's just we are also celebrating Orthodox Christmas in our household, so this just makes sense. It's not because I'm very lazy. Anyways, new year has started, the work continues, and here I am with another mystery that I have prepared for you. It's also a true crime, so it's very horrific, I can say, and also a little bit frustrating because of the ending, so be prepared. The main mystery and the crime that we're about to discuss on today's video is going to take place on a cargo ship named Bärbel. It was built in 1986, but not delivered until 1989. It belonged to a Dutch company and it was built in the Netherlands. The ship has changed quite a lot of owners and also names, and it continued to work even after the event that happened in the year 1993 that we are about to discuss in today's video. So let's shed some light on the story that happened in the year 1993. Specifically, it happened in August. So the ship called Bärbel, freighted by Merval and Meyer, was on his way with a cargo load of rapeseed from London to Rostock. So on the ship there were 5 Russian soldiers and 1 captain. On Sunday the 15th, 1993, the ship's captain, 50-year-old Henrik Telkman, calls his wife Bärbel. Yes, he called the ship in the name of his wife. I think it's so romantic and so cool. It was approximately 7 a.m. when he called, and in this conversation he told his wife that they have already reached the mouth of the River Thames, which meant that they will reach Germany by the evening. But Henrik did not come home on the promised evening. Wife, of course, started to get worried, and she decided that on Monday, August 16th, she's gonna try and attempt to call him again. But unfortunately, she didn't reach him. 3 days passed, and since the last phone call from the captain's wife, there was no sign of the ship or the crew. That was until August 19th, 10:45 a.m., when a couple of Danish fishermen with their boats noticed 2 rafts floating in the North Sea. This is where the story started to get me chills, because sometimes it will remind me of some kind of like horror movie scene. I don't know. So one of the rafts was empty, but the other raft that was found by Danish fishermen, his name was Søren Larsen, had a person. And that person was alive. He was a 28-year-old Russian sailor, and his name was Andrei Lapin. The ship itself was found a little bit later, just drifting in the sea, like a ghost ship. And I will repeat myself, at this point, it will start to look like a scene from a horror movie, because there was bloodbath on the ship, especially in the workshop, and it looked like somebody had tried to wash this blood away, kind of like hiding this crime scene. And it was also obvious that there has been some fire on the ship. More specifically, there have been 3 attempts to create a fire by means of diesel, but it didn't take off. I don't know what was the reason of creating this fire. Maybe they tried to burn some kind of evidence of the crime scene, I don't know, but something was burnt there. It was also visible that there has been some kind of fighting happening on the ship. The captain's cabin was ransacked, damaged, and the ship's till or cash machine was open. The cash was gone and it was just like lying on the floor. So it also kind of looked a little bit like a robbery. Moreover, and this is very creepy, there were pieces of hair, skin, and scalp scattered throughout the ship. Allegedly, and it was also assumed that whoever did this also used the ship's crane to get rid of the bodies. So they picked up the bodies with the crane and threw them overboard in the sea just to get rid of them. And at the end, there was no living or dead soul on the ship. It was basically abandoned with all of this like horror movie scene on it. Now, let's go back to Andrei Lapin, the only person who was found and who allegedly had survived whatever happened on this ship. So the Danish fisherman who found him said that he was looking quite suspicious. And in his raft, he also had some things collected. For example, he had a duvet, he had a pillow, he had his old Red Army passport, he had 6 cans of peaches, cola, a suitcase full of papers and documents, and get this, 60,000 Deutschmarks. I did some calculation nowadays in euros, it would be approximately 30,000 euros. I don't know how much it is in US dollars, but it's a huge sum of money. Let's assume that this money was supposed to be paid as wages to the sailors on the ship. And Captain's wife, Bärbel, came forward and she said that indeed her husband always paid the wages for his sailors in cash. And this just makes sense if we just remember that the till was empty and it was like robbed. There was no money in there. When Lapin was asked about this money, he said that this money is his own savings. He had been saving this money for quite a while now, and he was intending to purchase a car with this money. The fisherman who found Lapin in the raft, his name was Søren Larsen, said, I quote, "We were surprised that the Russian had time to take his blanket, a pillow, and 2 suitcases of papers with him into the life raft, given the hectic pace and confusion that must have existed on the board. He seemed somehow cold-blooded. Anyone else would have asked how the other sailors were doing. This man was as cold as ice. He seemed completely calm and not worried in any way." Of course, after I don't know what happened on the ship, but the crime scene looks really horrible. A person can shut down and get very traumatized and look, as the fisherman described, cold, because like he was drifting in North Sea for a couple of days and whoever knows what happened on the ship. But then again, from the other side, if he had the mental strength to collect all of these things during a chaos, anyways, this Lapin, he's a shady guy in my opinion. The fisherman also mentioned that Lapin seemed quite displeased about the fact that they were about to call a rescue helicopter. And when Lapin was rescued, the captain's wife noticed that on his wrist there is her husband's watch. And for her, it was a clear sign that Lapin is guilty. He had done something to her husband, probably to other crew members. He is to blame for whatever happened on the cargo ship Bärbel. Captain's wife afterwards came forward saying that Lapin was hired to work on the ship only 8 days before this voyage started. And she also revealed that she actually had a chance to meet him briefly before all of this trip started. So Lapin on that moment was bringing some spare parts to the cargo ship, and this is where she saw him, and she said that she didn't have a very good impression about him. I quote, she said that he was very unsympathetic towards me. Of course, the Danish authorities had a lot of questions to ask to Andrei Lapin, especially about what happened during those 3 days when the ship was missing, and about the crime scene, because it really looked like the crime scene. But, I quote, "The Russian couldn't explain it to us." Lapin was now in the eyesight of Danish authorities, and sooner or later he had to come out with something. I mean, he couldn't pretend that he doesn't remember anything. Well, he came forward with the story that a fire broke out on the ship and there was a chaos. He managed to save himself, but unfortunately the others didn't save themselves and they drowned. I guess he said that they jumped off the cargo ship and drowned. But at the end, the story did not really match with the crime scene. Remember, there was also blood and signs of fighting, skin all over the place and stuff. Fire would not be the story. Fire would not be the thing that happened there. Lapin, I guess, understood that this fire story will not go through, so he changed his testimony. Now he was telling that the sailors on the ship were not very happy with the working conditions on the ship and with the work of the captain. So there was some kind of rebellion on the ship. And they attacked the captain, like 2 sailors attacked the captain with an axe. They killed him. And then they went after him, after Lapin, and threatened him. And in order to protect himself, he, in self-defense, killed them. Then he continued to tell that he understood that this story sounds very crazy and nobody would probably believe him. And this is why he disposed of all of the evidence of the crime scene. And when he went on the raft, he also took all of the money from the till because he decided to give this money back to the families of the deceased. What a hero. In mid-December, the body of the deceased captain of the ship, Henrik Telkman, was found. He was found again by some Danish fishermen. None of the other crew members have not been found up to nowadays. However, there was one body washed out in Sweden in the year 1994, but it has never been confirmed that he actually belonged to this missing crew. Another interesting fact is that the ship was found quite significantly away from its usual route, which means that somebody had steered away and placed it on the way towards north. And at one point, when the ship ran out of its fuel, it just simply stopped and started to drift in the North Sea. The captain shipbroker, his name was Hans-Uwe Meyer, said that he's 100% sure that the captain, Henrik Telkman, was not the person who steered the ship away from its usual route. He would never do that, and I quote, "Telkman was a very experienced, reliable sailor. He would never have gotten so far off course without reporting." Speculations about Lapin being the main mastermind behind all of this started. So it was alleged that he was the one who killed everyone, who robbed and took the money, who got rid of the bodies by throwing them over the board by means of a crane. So he was the one who did all of this solo. And the motive would be money, obviously, because they found him in the raft with quite a lot of money and a lot of goodies. Lapin was charged with arson and 5 counts of murder in the year 1993, August 19. Afterwards, he was deported from Denmark to Germany in December 13th, 1993. Initial trial began on the year 1994, September the 5th, and he refused to talk to any of the German authorities before the trial, but when the trial started, he arrived smartly dressed and replied to all of the questions that they asked him. It's interesting that during this trial, he again changed his testimony. Now he said that he and his couple of fellow mates, fellow sailors, maybe one or two, I don't know, they visited the captain's workshop and they saw that captain has been killed in this workshop. And this is when they got suspicious towards the other sailors that they were the murderers. And when those murderers started to come after him and his friend, with whom he found the captain in the workshop, they had to run away because they wanted to kill them too. He said that he was lucky, he hid away, but his fellow friends, they were not so lucky and they got killed by these bad sailors. And while he was in a hideaway, he saw how actually those bad sailors murdered his friends and how they tried to kind of steer the ship towards the land, but they failed. Anyways, this story could be true, except for the fact, where did these bad sailors go? Did they swim on their own, like in the sea, and reach the land? This really sounds like a fairy tale. And when he was asked during the trial about the fact that initially he actually told another story, he said that, well, I told this because this story sounds so crazy that probably nobody would believe me. Yeah, he already told that before. On February the 3rd, year 1995, Lapin left the courtroom as a free man. Yes, they lacked some serious evidence towards him. They couldn't prove anything. Everything was just simply circumstantial. And the part that really makes me angry is, remember those 60,000 Deutschmarks that he had in the raft? He got to keep them. Yeah. So even if he was or was not involved in whatever happened on the ship, this money, I'm quite certain, did not really belong to him. At the end, Lapin said that this money indeed belongs to him. Remember, at the beginning, he said that he took it from the till on the ship and wanted to give it away to the deceased families. Yeah, now he said that it's his own savings. And he earned this money from making and selling Russian religious icons. In my opinion, it was just an attempt to look really like saint in the eyes of the court. Anyways, at the end of July, year 1995, the German Federal Court of Justice announced that no further action would be brought against Lapin. Now, although it seems very obvious that Lapin was involved in something and he might be the one who did all of these bad things on the ship and then tried to escape with like a huge sum of money, there are some facts that truly do not make sense to me. And let's just look in those. As I said, the ship left London on his way to Rostock. And when the ship left London, the captain made a call to his wife, and it happened on Sunday, August the 15th. But on Monday, which is the next day, she already could not reach him. So logically thinking, whatever happened within the 48 hours after the ship left the banks of London. It seems a bit odd, although Lapin does look like the main suspect in this case. Would a person do all of this alone? Like, kill the captain, kill the other sailors? Like, there was obviously a fighting, like a really harsh fighting with axe, like with the skin going everywhere. There was a robbery, and he also had to get rid of the bodies and make sure that he gets on the raft with all of the supplies and money. Like, would one person do this easily? I think he needs to have some kind of superpowers. Or there's an option that maybe he was in some kind of state of mind where he did not really understand what he's doing. Maybe his anger took over his body and mind. I don't know. Like, there have been situations when people commit crimes and then they don't remember a thing afterwards. I don't know. And I also didn't find any like proof that he has been checked by psychologists if his mind is really okay. Considering also how he was lying. Okay, lying could signify that he's hiding something, but lying could also be part of his like mental illness or whatever. He could have done this under some kind of mental conditions. I don't know. That's one of the options. Why he chose to do this while the ship was in the sea. Because, you see, before the ship went to Rostock, he was staying in London for about 5 days. And if his main motive really was robbery in getting those 60,000 Deutschmarks, he could have done the robbery during those 5 days and just get off with it from London without casualties and making all of this bloodbath. It's also worth mentioning, and I think maybe that could be also related to this like mental illness thing. Andrei Lapin is originally from Kaliningrad, which is a Russian exclave on the Baltic Sea that borders with Poland and Lithuania. And maybe he knew how to steer the ship, and he decided that he can take the whole cargo ship and steer it towards his homeland and disappear from there. I don't know. Sounds like, again, as a movie plot, but maybe that was his thinking, if he is, of course, involved in all of this story at all. Because I cannot tell, because in the face of law, he's innocent. Another thing that popped into my mind is that maybe he was under some kind of like medicine, or maybe he was using some forbidden substances, and this is why he got crazy on the ship, and this is what resulted from all of this. And I also didn't find anything that says that the Danish investigators or German investigators had tested him for any kind of drugs. Maybe drugs could cause this reaction and all of these slaughterhouse that happened on the ship. I don't know. But this could also be one of the reasons, in my opinion. And another funny thing, and it also, I think, shows a bit about Lapin's personality and maybe his like mental state. So after the court's acquittal, he applied for another job on the same ship. Yes, the same ship that went through all of this. And now the ship was owned by the captain's wife, and she was the one who received his application. And of course, Lapin did not get the job. For me, if you ask, it's clear sign that there's something wrong with his mind. But it's just my opinion. Because, like, why would you apply for work on the same ship where you allegedly witnessed, like, a real hell, people being killed in front of you, where you barely escaped? Why would you go back working there? Because like all of these bad memories would come back. Maybe he wanted to prove something to the wife, like showing, you see, I'm innocent, I can come back and I can work for you or whatever. it's a bit like freaky for me. Now, life went on and there was like no sign about Lapin and what were his whereabouts until the year 2009 when a Danish radio created a podcast about this case and they tracked him down in Russia. So he was working as a middle manager in a sea rescue center. So he was like just going normally about his life. Anyways, at the end, we will probably never know what really happened during those days in the North Sea on the ship Bärbel. There were only two witnesses. One of them was found in the raft. His name was Lapin, and his testimony, we cannot trust him, and he won't tell anything. The other witness was the ship, but as we know, ships cannot speak. They just continue to drift in the sea and do their work for their captains. The missing crew consisted of engineer Mikhail Mikhailov, sailor Ladislav Bogdan, first mate Viktor Varenko, and chef Anatoly Smolyak. Their families still have not had closure to this day. Now, my friends, what are your thoughts about this case? Have you ever heard about it? Because I accidentally bumped into it and I was so amazed about how it ended up. How is it possible that we still don't know what happened there? And how is it possible that this Lapin survived and still has not told us what actually happened there? Because he must know. He definitely must know. Now, I will see you down there in the comments with your opinions, your ideas, speculations. Let's just discuss this there. Anyways, that's it from me today. This was the first video of the year 2024. I hope it started for you really nicely with some great celebrations, some good food, some good people around you. And yeah, I wish you all very happy 2024 again and see you next time.